Alice in Wonderland is not your typical children's story, hence why it has been a fascination for many people since its release in 1865. The tale of Alice is truly spellbinding, and the magic and mystery held within the rabbit hole cannot be diminished. During part 1, we began our list of 10 scientific Alice in Wonderland facts and theories, looking at 5 curious subject matters. Today, we will be completing our list by looking at 5 more. So, without further ado, let us finally continue. Number 6. The Red Queen Hypothesis. Now here you see, it takes all the running you can do to keep in the same place. If you want to get somewhere else, you must run at least twice as fast as that. There are 3 queens in the Alice books. The playing card Queen of Hearts in the original Alice tale, and the white and red queen chess pieces in Through the Looking Glass. When Alice first meets the Red Queen, she is astonished to see how incredibly fast she has to travel, only to stay in the same place. Lee Van Vallen used this idea to help explain the law of extinction, also known as Van Vallen's law, which states that the probability of extinction does not depend on the lifetime or higher rank of the species, but instead it relies on how constant a species remains over millions of years. Vallen states that organisms which sexually reproduce must constantly adapt, evolve and reproduce simply to survive or keep in the same place, because other coexisting organisms are also adapting, evolving and reproducing. No one species gains a long-term advantage because, like the Red Queen, they are all running onwards, avoiding extinction but gaining no real momentum in the evolutionary race. Number 7. Jabberwocky sentence. Beware the Jabberwock, my son, the jaws that bite, the claws that catch. Beware the jump bird and shun the frumious bandersnatch. Neurobiology is a branch of scientific study that explores the brain and how it impacts our cognitive functions and behaviour. When people develop neurological and psychiatric disorders, it is the neuroscientist who aims to discover the what, the where, the how and the why. Brain scans are frequently used as a form of study, and neuroscientists exploring the mechanics of language might ask a patient to recite something known as a Jabberwocky sentence during one of these scans. A Jabberwocky sentence uses the correct grammar and arrangement of words, but also contains nonsensical language, named of course after Lewis Carroll's poem The Jabberwocky. 'Twas brillig and slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. The poem is written in such a way that although it does not make sense, it also does, as Alice states during Through the Looking Glass after reading The Jabberwocky. Somehow it seems to fill my head with ideas, only I don't exactly know what they are. Meaning and grammar are processed differently in the brain. Therefore, nonsense language is the perfect tool for neurological exploration. For example, testing a patient's ability to infer the hypothetical meaning of a nonsense word from context is used to test for brain damage. Nonsense language, or nonce words, are also used to study the development of language in children, because they allow researchers to test how children treat words of which they have no prior knowledge. Jean Burko's wug test presented children with an object called a wug and they were asked to complete sentences about the wug that elicited a plural form. For example, this is a wug. Now there are two of them. There are two what? The use of the plural form wugs by the children suggested that they had applied a plural rule to the sentence despite having no prior experience with the word wug. Experiments such as this help us to learn about the default assumptions children make about new word meanings and language structure. Number 8. Mental time travel. It's a poor sort of memory that only works backwards, the Queen remarked. What sort of things do you remember best? Alice ventured to ask. Oh, things that happened the week after next, the Queen replied, in a careless tone. The White Queen chess piece in Through the Looking Glass demonstrates strange foresight in that she can predict and prepare for future events before they actually occur. But is this idea really so strange? Eleanor Maguire at University College London states that since the mid-2000s, neuroscientists started to realise that memory is not really about the past. It's about helping you act appropriately in the future. We imagine the future by pulling apart our recollections and then piecing them together in a way that might represent a future scenario. This requires a form of mental time travel, which uses the area of the brain which is responsible for both memory and foresight. Maguire studied patients with hippocampus damage, an area of the brain which plays a major role in memory. However, as well as their inability to recall the past, Maguire also found that patients struggled with forward thinking. She states, "We asked them to imagine meeting a friend next weekend, and they just couldn't do it. The same was true when they were asked to imagine a future visit to the seaside. They knew there would be sand and sea, but couldn't visualize it in the mind's eye." When discussing her research surrounding mental time travel, Maguire often uses the White Queen to demonstrate her ideas, because like the White Queen, you need to project yourself forward to work out the best course of action. Number 9. Quantum Cheshire Cat. Well, I've often seen a cat without a grin, thought Alice. But a grin without a cat? It's the most curious thing I ever saw in my life. We've all heard of Schrodinger's cat, the infamous thought experiment where a cat in a box is both dead and alive simultaneously as means to demonstrate the quantum phenomenon known as superposition. But have you heard of the quantum Cheshire Cat? Throughout our daily lives, we observe a reality in which objects are bound to their properties. For example, a rotating ball is attached to its spin, and a Cheshire Cat is attached to its smile. Quantum theory, however, predicts that a particle, such as a photon or neutron, can become physically separated from its properties, such as its polarization or its magnetic moment, that is, its coupling to an external magnetic field. Researchers at Institut Lau-Langevin in Grenoble, France, used an experimental setup known as an interferometer to test this theory. A neutron beam was passed through a silicon crystal, and by applying filters and a technique known as post-selection, they were able to detect the physical separation of the neutrons from their magnetic moment, as measured by the direction of their spin. Researchers reported that the system behaves as if the neutrons go through one beam path, while their magnetic moment travels along the other. Two pathways allowing the seemingly inseparable to be separated. Or, as one of the researchers put it, we find the cat in one place and its grin in another. Number 10. A dreamscape reality. Ever drifting down the stream, lingering in the golden gleam. Life, what is it but a dream? The formation of dreams and the process of dreaming are principal motifs in the Alice tales. Both the rabbit hole and the looking glass lead to dreamscape realities, with morphing landscapes, talking animals, transformations, and altered physics. The atmosphere is often sinister or uncanny, which at times brings a nightmarish quality. Like Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream or the Wachowskis' Matrix, we see an interchangeability between realms. The lines are continuously blurred, and we are led to question the very nature of reality. Tweedledum and Tweedledee bring Alice to do just that when they suggest that they are all just a part of the Red King's dream, and if he were to wake up, they would suddenly cease to exist. After Alice returns through the looking glass, she concludes that the Red King was a part of her dream, but she was also a part of his dream too. Back in the Victorian era, when Carroll wrote his tale, medical scholars believed that dream states and insanity were closely linked. Whether or not the lack of ability to differentiate between dreams with reality in childhood could lead to insanity in adulthood was highly debated. A fear of dreams intruding one's conscious life began to spread. Carroll's extensive personal library included books on this very subject matter. In an essay titled Lewis Carroll's Dream Child and Victorian Child Psychopathology, author Stephanie L. Schatz explores what mindset Carroll may have had when he wrote his stories by analysing medical theories of the time written by scholars Carroll would have been familiar with. She states, despite the fact that Maudsley and Holland assert that the child's mind may, at times, be analogous to that of an insane adult, this does not necessarily mean that they are categorically labelling children as insane, or that insanity was considered normal for a child. Only that psychologically normal children might be described as insane by adult standards. Children and adults tend to view and assess the world in a very different manner. You Are Old, Father William, a satirical poem recited by Alice to the caterpillar, fully captures this notion, as it depicts a confusing back and forth between an elder and a youth who keep failing to understand each other. This theme continues to flow throughout the Wonderland dreamscape. Often it appears as though we are viewing the adult world through the eyes of a child. We see arbitrary rules, volatile leaders, and a corrupt criminal justice system. The realm of adulthood, like every other realm, is mere illusion, full of people dressed up pretending to know what they are doing. And that concludes our list of 10 scientific Alice in Wonderland facts and theories. I hope it piqued your curiosity as much as it did mine. If you enjoyed this video, please like and perhaps even comment and share. And remember to subscribe for more Alice in Wonderland themed content. Stay curious, fellow Wonderlanders. Until next time.
Little red butterflies kiss the tulips.